Hey Facebook, and welcome to, you know what, let's try that again. Hey friends, hey family. I haven't turned that off. Welcome to day 14 of my challenge. Today I'm quitting useless knowledge. Useless knowledge. That's kind of what quitting Facebook was half about, but I'll go in depth a little more on that. So, yeah, useless knowledge is basically any kind of factoid, junk, just clutter. Oh, that's an interesting fact about this or that, and it's nice to know about your world, but until you focus on what is important in your life and until I focus on what's important in my life, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I studied Free Men on the Land for 5 years. I studied the Illuminati, the 13 family bloodlines, aliens, Tesla. I studied vaccine. I studied a lot of stuff, and I mean that was one of the causes of my depression, was really seeing all this stuff out there that does seem to have an effect on us, chemtrails for example, but not really having any ability to do anything with that knowledge except to try and proselytize and evangelize and spread the truth, because if everyone knew the truth, then it would clearly stop. And that's a very disempowering. It might sometimes that's the way someone has to go, and it's like Socrates, the cave of the analogy of the people who are raised in the cave and they only see life through the shadows cast by things onto the wall until they're unchained by somebody. And then the people who have been that way in there so long are so stuck in that way that they might fight or even kill a person who tries to free them and bring them out to the sunshine. But someone who's gone out to the sun needs to actually, they owe humanity to go back in there. And that was my freaking righteousness kind of attitude around sharing knowledge and stuff like that. But I was very much ignoring, through the depression that trying to deal with that caused, I was very much ignoring my own body. And activists tend to burn out for some of these reasons. Not that I was much of an activist, but so useless knowledge. I'm not saying that that these things aren't true. I still believe in most of these things, but at this point, I need to take more personal responsibility for making myself a more effective human being. I talked about this yesterday about, do I want to volunteer abroad or do I want to become a doctor first, so that when I do go abroad to serve, I actually am of more value to the world. What brings the most value into the service that I do for people? So studying these things, which are there for anyone to study at this point with the internet, that's one of the reasons I'm stopping, is because the information's out there. You can go and look it up yourself, and having me try and throw it down your throat isn't going to move anything forward, and it's just going to make me uncomfortable and disappointed and fall into emotional despair, and I won't look after myself. And so cutting that out, for example, and this is a page that I take from my brother's book, Sean. I don't know if he still does this, but he told me that he never really read books for the enjoyment. He wasn't a novel reader. He wouldn't read something just for even if it was a topic of interest, a factual book. He wouldn't read it. It was only things, he would only read things that were pertinent to his daily activities. Things that he if he was getting into woodworking, he would get a book on woodworking and study that and to enough so that he could actualize in his life. So that's where I want to get out. Because the other thing is, one of the things that I was doing is a coping mechanism for the world is, if I can understand the world, then I can be comfortable with its chaos. And the place that I get to is a place of complacency. And that's where I became complacent. I was like, okay, I get why school system's stupid, just because it's designed that way. And for me, that gave me relief, because I felt like I understood why it was that way, and it made me complacent. So the other side of useless knowledge is that it's a consumeristic habit. It's for my dopamine fixes. It's another dopamine hit. Scrolling Facebook. Oh, I see so many things on Facebook that are interesting and worthy of my time and attention if I'm not paying attention to what my truest, deepest goals are. Because when I am paying attention to my truest, deepest goals, I have a lot of homework stacked up, and I just don't have time for all this stuff. I've got to be working here, over here on this stuff. So again, it's like all of these vices. Oh, it doesn't hurt here, it doesn't hurt there. But if you're really motivated, if you really have big ambitions, then I need to really focus on those things. And so useless knowledge, I'm going to do away with it from now on. And I'm going to be more action-oriented. What are the actions that I want to take today, this week, this month, this year? And create a list of researchable things that I need to see in order to get to those goals. And I'm guessing that I will be full. My time will be full just doing those activities and researching to do those activities. So, and this kind of builds on a philosophy that I've been learning through a coworker of mine. He's a conservative. It's very conservative, and we have really great talks. I seem to attract conservative people as friends. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but to me, it seems like the left and the right is on the left, it's look at the world and look at what's going on. We got to tackle these issues, and kind of a lack of personal responsibility. I might be wrong on that. And conservatism seems to be more about like my life, my family. I'm not paying for anything else, and so yeah, very, very individual-centered. You need to take responsibility for yourself. And I think that both these camps are missing something valuable from the other side. I think that a conservative that is ignoring chemtrails or, corporations doing environmental damage is dangerous. And I think on the other side, socialism, devoid of personal responsibility, creates a welfare state. And so I think if you could combine those somehow, and I'm not sure how to do that exactly, but except for in myself, I know that I'm motivated to be a social mover and changer. I want to affect the world, but I'm going to start by taking personal responsibility for myself. Now, how this is tied into today's work is that I personally believe that if I focus truly on what I actually need. Let's take diet for example. If I'm focusing on my diet, okay, I need access to this kind of food, and this is growing, blah, 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 then I'll learn, oh, it's actually, there's subsidies on this chemical that's being put into the food here, and I can't get I can't get this other thing without it. So now my attention is focused on the provincial or federal level legislation, and now I actually, when I go to Parliament or when I write my letters, I'm actually speaking from a place of, this is my truth, this is how this is affecting me in a concrete way, this is something that I'm standing against, instead of just a kind of a general, oh, you're taking away my rights. I'm speaking to something that's very personal, and I'm grounded and centered from that place. And I think if we all worked from that grounded, centered, individual place, then when we do meet up with a mutual interest, we'll all be much more potent. When, you see at those protests, when someone's actually asked questions, they're just kind of there because their friends are there. Some people don't really know, they just think it's a good thing, but they don't feel that connection to themselves. The same way that people who've been displaced around and moved around, they don't have so much of a connection to that current place that they're in that they're willing to defend it. Whereas, like, say, tribes or indigenous people who've lived there that's the only thing that they know, that when that's gone, their whole world is shattered. So they're going to stay there. And so I think that's where we need to kind of get back to. So cutting out useless knowledge, it's a distraction, it's consumeristic, it's causing mental illness, and I want to focus on learning things that I need to know in order to do the projects that I want to do. So I want to shift gears and talk a bit about my weekend. I'll try and keep this short, but this weekend I had a couple personal projects on the property that I stayed on, or that I live on. I bought a weightlifting bench. I'm going to start doing workout stuff, and so I had to clean up a barn area for that, and it took a long time getting the place ready for it. And I noticed myself getting kind of distracted and enjoyed like learning about something and unscrewing it and this and that. And my mind tends to go that way. I want to figure out how something works. And at the end of the weekend, I'm looking back and I go, I did not really effectively use my time very well. And so there's lots of, I think that's going to be kind of the trick for me, is there's lots of things that I could wrap my mind into doing. Oh, I want to clean up this thing and make it nice and new again, and there's something personal that I enjoy out of fixing old tools and making them work again, or making a door hinge less squeaky. And there is a place and time for that, but it has to be it has to match the priorities of what I actually really want to accomplish with my time, because a weekend there's a lot of time to get things done. So, and another thing that happened was while I was cleaning that barn out, there was a lot of concrete dust, there was a lot of hay and chicken manure, and it was particles in the air, and I ended up getting a nosebleed and coughing and sneezing quite a bit because I wasn't properly covering myself. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing, that I'm cleaning myself up and cutting all these things out, but I would neglect my body in such a obvious way, in such a dangerous way. It makes me see that I'm still bouncing from a negative place and trying to get to a positive place. My actions are oriented from wanting to leave a bad place, and where I want to be is oriented from a place of good feelings about myself, that I'm doing this because I'm coming from a place of self-love. So this is kind of a still a work in progress here. So yeah, that was my weekend. But that being said, I got a lot of nice things done. Now I have a workbench. So I know, Brooke, you seem to be watching some of these videos. I know that you're kind of a weightlifter, and Dad too. So if either of you, for anyone here who does work out regularly, I haven't done it since like grade 7. I don't know what time of day, I don't know when to eat compared to that, but I'd like to start working out and getting really buff and really strong. And I've got a nice workbench, I've got the weights, so if you can recommend how to use it, that would be awesome. What kind of reps and any information like that would be a great way to support me in this endeavor. And yeah, I just did some. I finally cleaned out my drug drawer and put all that crap, sorted it out and put it away, and got my medicines out, got my sage out, and cleaned that area up, and put more things on my altar. So I'm really grounding out, and I'll just show you this important, urgent thing here. So important and not urgent, important and urgent, not important, not urgent, not important but urgent. I haven't had anything in there, but I've filled this out, and that can move around and I can reprioritize things. So that's a great thing to have right on my desk. I just did that yesterday, or started filling it out. So that's day 14. Like I say, that day or two ago was a bit of a struggle. So if anyone has any recommendations for how to cope with strong emotions, or how information for people who are coming off of addiction and facing stuff that bubbles up, any resources like that would probably be really helpful. But I'm feeling pretty good today. And yeah, it was a good weekend. I hope you guys had a good one too. And stay tuned for, this today leads into tomorrow really nicely. Tomorrow is neglect. I'm going to be giving up neglect, which we'll talk about when we get there. And after that, we're getting into some hard ones. I'll be giving up sugar in a couple days. Video games, I haven't really used them very much, but meat is going to come up pretty quick. So there's some interesting things coming up, so stay tuned for that. Again, thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow. Okay, good night.